And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Amplifying F Sharp. Today, I'm your host, Jimmy Bird, and we're going to be talking about how to use APIStub.FSharp for your integration tests for ASP.NET. Before I get to that point, I just kind of want to reintroduce what Amplifying F Sharp is. Amplifying F Sharp is an initiative to encourage hands-on collaboration with open F Sharp or open source F Sharp projects. We try to show videos of either contributing or projects that are new and upcoming. Um, if you want to come and see some of our previous sessions, you can go to amplifyingfsharp.io, click on sessions, and come see all the previous sessions we've done before. If you want to start a session, just go to the page, click join us today, and we ask you to fill out a little bit of form. This will create a GitHub issue for us. And then we can discuss on the kind of topic that we want to go over. And then today I'm joined by, oh man, I'm gonna be terrible at butchering your name.
Okay,
Giacomo, is that
I can
correct?
help. Yeah, it's Giacomo, is correct.
Giacomo? All right. I should have asked that before I started. Um, I will hand it over to you. Stop sharing here.
Yes. And yeah, I'm gonna share again then. Yes. Let me see if you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. First, yeah, thanks again, guys, for inviting me to Amplify F Sharp. It's like I think it's a great community project and is very nice to be able to just put an issue on GitHub and have a very inclusive and welcoming, let's say, onboarding to it. So it's really a nice project. Thanks again. And today, so you can find me on GitHub as jcon27 or also on Twitter, in case yeah you're interested in following what I rant about or like other projects. I'm very interested in F Sharp as a more like as a blogger, I would say, than a hardcore programmer. But I also like to, yeah, I've created this library for testing. And yeah, I'm also interested in environment topics that like is like my side passion. But let's go more on the topic of today. So API stub F sharp. Why? So what is this library? So it's a library which allows you to test your ASP.NET web application from F sharp. And why I created this library is because in other company, it started actually with a very simple approach where I was already using some F sharp testing. When I say maybe like integration tests, I don't know if you guys or like the audience already knows, but I'm referring to this specific part of the docs where we're using a web application factory with the program of your ASP.NET project. And I just found that for our use case, many times this setup was a bit complicated. So I don't know, at least personally, uh, I found that for especially the part of the dependencies, so like the part of the HTTP client and the HTTP client factory pipeline, there was not so much official documentation on how to do it. And so yeah, basically like some time ago, I decided to give this thing a go. And you can find, there is like other projects that all follow like a similar, let's say, objective. But for me, yeah, the testing web apps in .NET should be easy, but sometimes, yeah, it's less easy than it looks, at least for like beginners or like colleagues. So I decided to, yeah, create this library, and now I'm gonna jump directly to the docs of the library. So first on GitHub, yeah, the repository name is F Sharp integration test. So it was a bit it's a bit like different than what you would expect. But then you can find the API docs here. And if anyone has also questions or like something is not clear or I'm not mentioning something of the context, just please let me know. And yeah, so these docs are made also with FSharp Docs, which is a very nice community tool for adding the documentation page to your FSharp projects. So it's really, really nice. And it doesn't take much to set up. So it's like a big ups for FSharp Docs. And so this library uses some computation expression also, which is a nice F-sharp feature to create, I would say, yeah, domain-specific languages also, or like in this specific case, a builder pattern kind of the computation expression. And I used it to wrap to this web application factory so that for developers which want to test the code, it's a bit easier. So they can just use, for example, in respect to HTTP client, for the test, they can just use the HTTP verbs and some things that look similar to what they already know. This library, of course, works for F-sharp, but it works both ways. Many times we hear people saying like, yeah, F-sharp and C-sharp, but I think F-sharp and C-sharp can be friends. And in my company, Travix is actually where we use the most F-sharp, and how I introduced it is like with via integration test or unit test. So it's just an exhortation for people which are interested in like starting up with F-sharp, or maybe these libraries, or like starting with integration or unit test can be a very nice way to start with F-sharp. And yeah, here we have the usage. So to use this computation expression, you will need to have basically you can use both with like a minimal API or like kind of the old styled startup class. And they are both provided to this test client generic constructor. This class basically is a wrapper for this web application factory that exposes a computation expression. Let's maybe dive deeper into an example. So let's say that we have our test, we have our application. Our application has registered 2 API clients. So for example, API dependency 1 and API dependency 2 with different verbs. And we want to test. So we want to basically be able to mock at the HTTP level the API client dependencies. Then yeah, it's quite easy to do that with this library. So let's see how it looks from F-sharp. As a small note, if you are using the minimal API version, you need to create a small empty type program at the end of your program.fs. This is because this also is true for the C-sharp version, but C-sharp uses also some like partial class for program, and yeah, F-sharp needs this little trick. So at the end of the program, if you place this, it should work just fine. And here we see an example of a test. So we can just build our computation expression with this new here. And here you can pass start up our program. And here you can see the computation expression in action. So we have test computation expression, and we can define then our get and post routes. In this case, we are passing like simple anonymous records as stubs. So that's also like quite handy in F-sharp to have anonymous records. And a similar API is provided for C-sharp. So you have, it was a bit of a joke. I added like the old man with the dinosaurs for the C-sharp API version, but And you can see that affluent, basically, I did a small translation. So there is the computation expression. By default, it doesn't directly translate into extension method. So you can do like a little bit of adapting between F# and C# and create some custom extension methods which provide the similar API surface. Yep. So that's what I did. Then here we have more information on how this works. So the main idea is that this computation expression wraps the creation of a Russian doll or like Chinese boxes of HTTP handlers. So like every time in our builder, every time we mock some new endpoint, we are just basically like creating an HTTP handler which contains the previous one. That's how the library is implemented. I don't know if it's like the most efficient or the or the best way to do it, probably not. But for my use case, it worked perfectly fine. So for the testing, and then we have basically I can show a bit of the code. So we have this computation expression that is created in this module, and this type test client contains the web application factory and this message handler. So this message handler is mutable. So this is the little trick that allows it to be, let's say, decorated in a kind of not proper way to say it, but. And yeah, here you can see the code for the message handler. So whenever we stub something, so like an operation, like a method with a route template, something else, and the template matcher matches the route, then if we don't have HTTP message handler, then we start creating it either with like a new one or terminal handlers wrapper, and then this part is where we basically keep for each decoration we keep adding the new handler which contains the old one in its belly. So and yeah, here you can see, so this is a computation expression. I don't know if other viewers are familiar with it. I'm not super familiar with it, but one way of using computation expressions, there is many. There is task, there is like async query, but also they are frequently used for implementing this builder pattern. And in my case, this works pretty well. So like with this yield, basically this yield method, we keep returning these objects when the computation builds. So it's yeah, it's quite useful because I can then return at the end my decorated factory after applying all the stubs. I can return the final factory as an output. And yeah, maybe I can show also this mock client handler exactly what it does. So it's here. So the mock client handler is a delegating handler which has some let's say some route dictionary where it can match the route, and it is gonna just like pass like a stubber. So that this is like a function which so the response stubber has a request and a route dictionary as parameters. So it's just gonna basically try to unwrap that task value. And then we also have a terminal handler, which is for the case when you didn't specify a stub. So you also want to know in your test when this is not configured. maybe I can show a little example in code. And maybe, I don't know, or I can ask you guys if you have questions or any specific I guess not yet. Okay. So I have here a C# web project. So as an example, you can create a minimal API in C# and test it from F#. Of course, you can also do it in F#, but I thought it was like a bit nicer to show so the kind of interop. And this program just has a regular minimal API with two clients. So there is this person client which tries to read from an endpoint this person array, and so this is just a DTO. It's like very simple example, like a example, and then we have a second basically this person repository, which is a service. So like we register a client, we register a service using it, and then we map this endpoint, which should return this person, John, if John is indeed in the repository. So it's and to demonstrate maybe this application, I can run. So let's see. Yes. I can maybe show first this one. This application requires so this other service to run correctly. So I just set up a small Docker Compose, which using a JSON server, which is like a Node.js mock server, can just return my JSON mock data. So this is the not important. This is the Docker, and I can start it up. So now we have our container running for our external service, which exposes this response as JSON. I can maybe show. Let's see. I lost my Chrome. Yeah. Yes. So like I lost, was it 3000? Yes. Yes. So now so we are serving this fake REST API, which is dependency of our service. And if we run indeed so our service, which is a C# service, .NET run. We have like our service which can return it returns hello world, or it can return John. No, sorry, there is something wrong. Yeah, I think I made a mistake in my code, but okay, always happens in demo. But what I wanted to show you here is that so if we go in the test section, so let's assume that for everyone more or less is clear that we have a C# .NET app which calls an external service via HTTP client, and we can see in the test we have here a legacy test. So I created this kind of show how it's usually done, so how complicated it can get. And in my case, I'm configuring the client's base address. And this test for now works only for if we have some like Docker Compose or like some external mock running. Otherwise, I would have also to mock the client registration itself. Let's see if this still works or I broke something. And basically, we are testing here that yeah, we can get the result from the main endpoint, and that we can also parse. Yes, so we are. You see that when our mock is running in Docker, this one works fine. Now, if I stop my Docker Compose, this test, of course, will not pass anymore. So this one keeps passing because it doesn't depend on external clients, but this one fails because John is retrieved from the John's repository. So let's see how we can do it in using this library. So what I think is nice is that I can now set up like in 3 lines quickly. I can quickly stub the response for persons. So I know that this person returns an array with name and age. I could also use, of course, of a full type, but I prefer to use this this anonymous record syntax. And then here in this CA, I have access to different methods. So I can every method which is marked with J is basically like a JSON method. So it allows me to use right away an object. Other methods instead have that route. So if you see, like for example, let's say delete. So you see that there is like the X is just for the computational expression, so you can ignore. But basically there is a route which is a string and then a stub. And this stub takes a HTTP request message, a route value dictionary, and returns a HTTP response message. And all the stubs are done in this way. If you want like an asynchronous version, you can basically, this is called async, but it uses task because it's most common with ASP.NET to work with task. So this one is more or less exactly the same and just returns a task instead of returning the other. So we have this like 2 implementation, but for very, very simple things, you can use this like J version, which contains, which gives you just a simple string and object. So it's quite handy for many scenarios to be able to mock in a very simple way. And this using this pattern is also nice because until I get a factory, so like this is where I'm getting my let's say web application factory, I can still have different DSLs defined for different tests. So for example, let's say I had like, I don't know, let's say that this was like a common stubs, and then I could have another like one specific test which would start from common stubs and then add more. So it's very beautiful in like how we can compose things because then you can structure also your test in a more composable manner, and programming composing things is always super nice. So it's great. But in this case, let's go back to the basics. So we have just our CA. And here, as I said, we are not running the mock. So this is gonna just basically inject a specific message handler in the pipeline and return the result. So we can test this quickly. And then we expect that John is 30, as we see from our mock data. So we can just verify that this is correct. And indeed, John is returned and is 30 years old. Yeah, indeed it works. So it's you can see that if I remove this persons, or even if I change mock some other route, for example, the test is gonna fail now. Yep. So I think, yeah, this sample project is also in the repository, so you can find it under web C#. And yeah, I think I didn't showcase like typical F# web frameworks like Falco or Oxpecker, because I just thought, yeah, keep it basic. But of course, if anyone is interested to explore, I can add more information to the repository. And yeah, feel free to provide any feedback, any open issues, or if you want to contribute to this project, yeah, it would be great. I think yeah, I think I explained more or less the aim of the project, and also why I made it. So like why I tried to solve my problems with this, and also for me was, yeah, also a chance to learn a bit of computation expression syntax, which is really beautiful and nice. So appreciate that quite much from F#.
Yeah, this is a really cool project. In terms of like contributing, do you have any good first issues that you'd like to introduce or show people?
Yeah, let me search. So I tried to label the issues. This is actually so I already addressed some of them, I think. I have to like refresh a bit, but I think, for example, we have good first issue. So for example, this is just, for example, to add a new HTTP method, which is not supported. I think that should be pretty straightforward, because you can just explore the existing computation expression and try to basically mimic. So I think in general, yeah, with most of repositories, the easiest fix is when you can already copy what was existing there and like kind of mount or like go on top of that to add some new feature. And another nice thing that I wanted to add was this. So now the registration is very generic for basically the HTTP client stubs, but I think it would be nice to maybe inspect the registered clients and kind of show in the computation expression itself what are the available routes to mock. That would be like really nice. But yeah, I can suspect that's probably not super easy to do. So this is maybe a bit more complicated. And probably requires some refraction and inspection of the ASP.NET server side. And then, yeah, this add changelog file, I'm already doing some experiments, but it's not, yeah. And then, yeah, there is also this, because now ASP.NET team is pointing a lot to Aspire solution for like containerized multiple like microservices applications. I think I'm curious to know how that could work together with Aspire, because yeah, Aspire also is like a container orchestrator, so it's like very different kind of also like multi-language support, like polyglot support. And yeah, I didn't like a kind of experiment with this yet, but I'm very curious to maybe give it a try soon. Yep. And I think, yes, maybe this is also interesting as a start, is a little bug that I have if I try to return a JSON string instead of using objects. So yeah, it's kind of a corner case, but maybe it's also like a interesting little thing to fix. And yes, if you maybe you guys are interested. So I discovered another library which is a bit similar to whatever you do, a bit late. So it's called I think HTTP mock, and it's I discovered it from the videos from Nick, so from Nick Chopsas, which is like a YouTuber that probably many of you guys know. And indeed, I guess sometimes happens that like there is a bit of duplication of features in libraries. I just thought that that library is for C# only. This one is more, let's say, F# oriented and also supports C#. So maybe that can be like a plus. Yeah, and I guess if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answers to give you
Yeah, I
answer.
don't see any questions in the Zoom chat or the YouTube chat. So, anyone been holding on to a question?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it too much. So, awesome.
Yeah, then I can say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And again, I guess for anyone who's watching, I think is a very nice idea and thing to contribute to Amplify F# because it's a really, really nice project. So keep going, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. It's always great to see new libraries and showing how they work, and also just where the contribution points can go. Like some like the patch one, I think would be a very good introduction to doing it, just because it does seem pretty simple. And I think the space of like integration testing your stuff like this is a little underdone. I mean, it gets complicated because the ASP.NET Core stuff can get really tricky to set up your app. Like, as much as like the demos are good for this, it's like, I don't know, every real application I ever worked in has like 100 like lines of configuration, and that like configuration builder, it's just insane. But I still think it's worth doing, especially for things that you want to really test. Though that a lot of that, like how does your route configuration works, like getting those things correct, I think is real easy to break if you're not being careful and have tests that follow you.
Yeah, I can say in our team, it was useful because we were able to, kind of split this different configuration then with this approach. And most of the time the changing bit is always the external dependencies. So like different domain, different flows have different service dependencies. So it's really nice to be able to kind of in one line in F# have it like in one function, and you can just decorate it later. So really cool.
Have you done anything with like the open API support? And do you think there'd be any useful for like testing stuff that comes out of that?
Yeah, that one also was another possible idea so another great project I really like is the Swagger or OpenAPI client provider, which is a F# type provider. And on the C# side, there is also some basically support in MS Build for like source generator with I don't know if it's exactly a source generator, but with Swag and other tooling, you can basically point to like an OpenAPI YAML specification or a OpenAPI JSON, and then get all your types and eventually also your clients generated. So I think it would be it was also in my radar to try to add this kind of OpenAPI support. I did use it for now via that like Swagger provider. So I combined in my tests like Swagger provider with this library to be able to kind of have a quick data from like external APIs in case like you don't want to really like reuse your models, just to be sure that like you're testing kind of in isolation a bit. And I think it's a really, really nice project.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we don't see any other questions from anyone else, so I think we'll wrap up. I'm gonna steal your screen again. Let me make sure that I get this up and over. go ahead and share my screen. All right. Hopefully did I actually end up sharing, or did it just take yours down? It did. There we go. All right, cool. Yep, just want to remind people to, if you'd like to do a session like this, just come to our website, amplifyingfsharp.io, and click the join us today, and then you just fill out a form with some information, and we'll figure out what kind of topic we want to talk about. And I definitely want to thank our guest for coming on, and we'll see everyone next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.